I came home early from deployment to surprise my wife, only to find her tangled in our bed with another man. But instead of rage, I chose precision. What followed wasn't just revenge. It was a tactical demolition of everything she thought she could hide. You don't betray a soldier and expect to walk away unscathed. I wasn't supposed to be home yet. The paperwork had me returning stateside 3 days later, but a last-minute change in logistics bumped my flight up. I didn't tell anyone. I figured surprising Jess would be a fun twist. Maybe take her out to dinner, relight things between us. We'd been distant the last few months. I blamed the deployment. Turns out that wasn't the real issue. After nearly 10 months in Iraq, everything at home felt too still. The driveway was empty, porch light on. Inside, the house was silent. No music, no TV, no footsteps. I dropped my duffel in the hallway and called out, "Jess!" Nothing. The air inside felt wrong, like a movie set before action is called. As I walked toward the bedroom, the stillness turned tense. Then I heard it: low laughter, muffled gasps, and the unmistakable creak of our bed. A voice followed. Hers. "Oh yes. You're the best." My pulse went still. It wasn't the words, it was the tone. Relaxed, playful, hungry. A voice I hadn't heard from her in months. But now it wasn't for me. I pushed the door open. There she was, Jess, my wife of 5 years, tangled in sheets with a man I didn't recognize. Big guy, hairy chest, half a sleeve of tattoos down one arm. He was on top of her, his eyes closed, her head tilted back, lost in the moment. Neither of them noticed me at first, but when my fist cracked against his jaw, it got their attention. The man flew sideways, slamming into the wall and crashing to the floor. A lamp shattered. He groaned once, then went quiet. Jess screamed. Clutching the covers to her chest like that would undo what I'd just seen. I didn't scream. I didn't ask why. I just stared. She backed up against the headboard, stunned. It's not what it looks like," she stammered. I glanced at the unconscious guy on the floor. "Then you've got a vivid imagination," I replied coldly. She tried to explain, stumbling through excuses. Something about loneliness, about not expecting me home. Her words blurred. I wasn't listening. I'd already shifted gears. Contain, control, retaliate. I opened the closet, pulled out a small black duffel and started packing. Calm, focused. Years of training kicking in. I wasn't going to shout or cry. That would give her too much satisfaction. Make her feel like it still mattered. "What are you doing?" she asked, panicked. "Getting out of your way. For now." "Please," she pleaded. "Don't do anything crazy." I met her eyes. "You don't know what crazy looks like." And I left. Out in the truck, I sat in silence. No music, no engine. Just the sound of my own breathing and the rush of adrenaline fading into something heavier. This wasn't just cheating, it was premeditated disrespect. My house, my bed. While I was deployed, risking my life. I thought about the times we lay in that same bed planning future kids. Late-night movie marathons. Growing old together. That version of Jess? She died the moment I opened that bedroom door. But I wasn't going to burn it all down in one blaze. No. This wasn't about rage, it was about strategy. Precision. I wasn't trained to react. I was trained to calculate. First move, intel. I had cameras on the front door, motion sensors, timestamps. I pulled the footage. Jess and Kyle, the affair partner, coming in and out on weekends. I was gone. No masks. No effort to hide. I checked our shared phone plan, pulled call logs and texts. The affair wasn't recent. It had been happening for at least 4 months. All those networking events, work trips, and girls' nights out, cover stories, lies. She hadn't just cheated. She'd built a system around it. Next step, confirm motive and leverage. And for that, I knew exactly who to talk to: Megan, Jess's older sister. They weren't close. Megan never liked her much. When I showed Megan the footage and laid out the timeline, she didn't look shocked. She looked satisfied. "I warned you," she said. "But I'll help." "Why?" I asked. "Because I want front row seats when you take her apart." That was the moment I realized I wasn't going to get even. I was going to take her whole world down, piece by piece. Revenge isn't rage. It's patience, precision, and pressure. Jess had built her life on appearances. Career woman, devoted wife, respected friend. I knew where she was strongest. That's where I planned to hit. With Megan's help, I mapped out Jess's weak points. Her reputation was her currency. At the real estate firm where she worked, she was seen as ambitious and trustworthy. Her social media painted a picture of balance. Career-driven, loyal, grounded. That was her mask. And I had everything I needed to rip it off. I started documenting. Carefully. Quietly. First, I pulled every relevant clip from our home security system. Footage of Kyle entering and leaving the house. Sometimes during times Jess claimed she was out showing listings. I matched timestamps to text messages from our shared cloud backup. The messages weren't subtle. She called him baby, said she couldn't wait to see him, and worst of all, my husband will never know. There was even footage from a small nanny cam I'd installed months ago to check in on our dog. I'd forgotten it was there. She didn't know it was still active. That camera caught them in bed. My bed. It was all time-stamped, clear and indisputable. Then came Kyle. I dug into him. His full name was Kyle Benson. He ran a modest digital marketing business that mostly operated off Instagram and Facebook ads. According to Megan, he liked to brag about being a serial entrepreneur. But the numbers didn't add up. I ran his business address. Residential. Then came the kicker: he wasn't single. He had a live-in girlfriend. Real one. Long-term. I found her through his tagged photos and confirmed it. Perfect. I drafted an email. Actually, 4. Each one had the same message. Just thought you deserved the truth. Attached were screenshots, text threads, security footage, and a spreadsheet detailing dates, times, and locations. One copy went to Jess's boss. One to Kyle's girlfriend. One to Kyle's business partners. And the last, straight to Jess. I scheduled them for early Monday morning. Strategic. It was the start of the work week. Maximum disruption. The fallout hit fast. By noon, Megan texted me, "Jess is on fire." HR pulled her in. She said it's fake. They didn't buy it. Another message followed. "She's been suspended pending review." Her boss emailed back a formal note. "We take these matters seriously. Jess is on leave while we investigate the breach of workplace ethics." Kyle's girlfriend didn't respond directly, but she posted a photo of her suitcase by the door on Instagram with the caption, "Know your worth." That evening, I shut down our shared accounts. The Amazon Prime she used for personal splurges, gone. Streaming services, canceled. Credit card, deactivated. Our joint bank account was split. I transferred 90%, my documented share, into a separate account under my name. She hadn't contributed a cent in over a year. By the time Jess realized what was happening, I was already 3 moves ahead. She showed up at the house 2 days later. I didn't answer the door at first. Let her knock. Let the silence remind her that I wasn't the man she thought she could manipulate anymore. When I finally opened it, she looked panicked. "You've gone too far," she said. "I lost clients. My boss won't return my calls. You're ruining my life." I stayed calm. I didn't ruin anything. I exposed it. She tried to play the victim. "I made a mistake. People cheat. You could have just walked away." I nodded. "Sure, I could have. But you didn't walk away from me. You lied. Every day. For months. You made a mockery of my trust, of our marriage, and you thought I'd never know." She didn't have a response. Then she asked, "Can we fix this?" That question told me everything I needed to know. She wasn't asking out of love. She was cornered. She wanted safety. A backup plan. Kyle was gone. Her job was shaky. Her social circle was cracking. She didn't want me. She wanted stability. I handed her an envelope from the kitchen drawer. Inside, divorce papers. Signed. Notarized. Ready to go. "You've got 72 hours, I said. "Sign and return them. If not, I file through my attorney, and I go for full financial control." With the evidence I have, a judge will side with me. Her hands trembled. You're not the man I married. No, I said. That man trusted you. She left without another word. And I finally felt still. But I wasn't done. There was one more card left to play. One more move that would make the truth undeniable. Not just to her, but to everyone who believed her lies. It was time for the final blow. A week passed. The divorce papers still weren't signed. Typical Jess. Delay. Deflect. Hope I'd cool off or get nostalgic or forget just how deep her betrayal went. But I wasn't waiting for closure. I was building it. The final blow needed to be public. Controlled. Permanent. Then came the perfect opportunity. Ava's engagement party. Jess wasn't just attending. She was in the bridal party. She had a speech lined up. One she'd been bragging about for weeks on social media before everything blew up. She even helped organize the venue. It was her last untouched corner of image, her last little island of credibility. I decided that's where it would end. I still had the RSVP card. I was on the guest list before any of this went down. So I kept my spot. Quietly. No warning. No confrontation. Just the plan. I arrived early. Said polite hellos. Kept a low profile. Nobody there really knew me except Ava and Jess. Perfect. Ava's fiancé, Jeremy, was standing near the AV setup, testing a projector and sound system. I walked over and handed him a small USB drive. Hey, I've got a quick video to play after Jess's speech, I said casually. Kind of a tribute to honesty, inside joke. She'll love it. He smiled. Got it. I'll cue it up. He had no idea what he was loading. I took my seat near the back of the room and waited. About 30 minutes later, Jess took the mic. She stood tall, composed. Her voice carried well. The speech was rehearsed. Too rehearsed. She talked about love, trust, how true relationships are about mutual respect and resilience. The room smiled along. Some people even teared up. I didn't. As soon as she stepped away from the mic, the projector screen behind her flickered on. It started simple text messages, timestamps. Then the video rolled. Security footage of her and Kyle entering our house. Timestamped to the same nights she told people she was out with clients. Then came the nanny cam footage, grainy but clear. Jess in bed with Kyle. Her voice audible. My husband will never know. The room fell silent. Someone gasped. Another whispered, Is that real? Ava dropped her glass. It shattered on the floor. Jess froze. Her body locked up. For a second, it looked like she might faint. The mic she just used picked up her broken voice. Who did this? I stepped forward from the back of the room. That would be me. Heads turned. All eyes on me now. You stood up here and preached about love, Jess. I said. About honesty. But love isn't built on secrets. And tonight, I figured the truth deserved its own moment. Nobody spoke. They just stared. At her, at me, at the screen. Jess didn't cry. She didn't scream. She didn't deny it. Because there was nothing left to say. The proof was right there in front of everyone. Her friends. Her co-workers. Ava. Jeremy. People who'd once admired her, trusted her. That illusion had just collapsed. I didn't wait for applause. I turned and walked out. Outside, the night air felt sharper. Lighter. By the time I got home, my phone had already buzzed 3 times. Not from Jess. From Megan. Game over. The first text read. Jess left without finishing her speech. People are posting about it already. I didn't respond. I didn't need to. I had done what I came to do. And not a single part of it broke the law. The next morning, I received a delivery envelope. Inside were the divorce papers, signed, notarized, sealed. No note. No explanation. Just her signature. I stared at it for a while, then placed it on the table and walked away. She had finally understood. There would be no recovery. No reset button. No manipulating her way back into safety. Jess had spent months building a double life. And I took exactly one night to end it. The silence after the storm was louder than I expected. Jess didn't call. She didn't text. No apology, no explanation. Just the signed divorce papers dropped on my doorstep by courier like an overdue invoice. I didn't expect a note, and she didn't include one. She knew there was nothing left to say. But the fallout was just beginning. Word of the party incident spread fast. Ava called the next day mostly to apologize. "I didn't know what was happening," she said. "Nobody did. But it explained everything." She didn't say it outright, but the implication was clear. Jess had fooled everyone. Ava wasn't just embarrassed. She was angry. Jess had used her platform, her event, to play the role of the virtuous friend. And I had taken that role apart in 10 minutes with facts. Jess was dropped from the bridal party within 48 hours. Meanwhile, I kept cleaning up. I visited our former bank to finalize the account separation. My contributions over the years, mortgage payments, household bills, savings deposits, were well documented. Jess had leaned into finding balance over the last year, working fewer hours and contributing less. When it came time to split assets, that history mattered. The lawyer didn't even flinch. She was entitled to less than she thought. I changed all the passwords, utilities, insurance, streaming services, subscriptions. I rerouted mail, closed joint memberships, blocked her on every channel except one, email, for legal coordination only. If she wanted to talk, it had to go through my attorney. Megan kept me updated on the personal side. Jess tried to smooth things over with her parents, claiming it was a misunderstanding. They weren't buying it. Not after they saw the footage. Her father apparently told her, "You made your bed. Now lie in it." Kyle wasn't doing much better. His girlfriend moved out the same night the email hit. She left him a note and a list of accounts she'd closed, just like I had with Jess. His business partners were furious, especially after seeing his name tied to an affair scandal. The word unprofessional doesn't begin to cover the reactions. 2 clients pulled their contracts. One of them cited ethics concerns. Reputation is currency. Both Jess and Kyle went bankrupt overnight. Meanwhile, I got quiet. No public posts. No interviews. I didn't need a victory lap. The point wasn't to humiliate her. It was to free myself, legally and emotionally, from someone who saw loyalty as optional. 1 week after the party, I got a message from someone I didn't expect. Kyle's ex. Her name was Lauren. She kept it short. "Thank you for the proof." I thought I was losing my mind. I replied once, "You weren't. You just trusted the wrong person." That was it. There was a strange sense of peace in the days that followed. I started sleeping through the night again. I cooked meals without checking my phone. I turned off notifications. The chaos had ended, and all that was left was space. Space to breathe, to reset, to move on. The house felt different. Not haunted. Not sad. Just quiet in a good way. And Jess? She disappeared from my life the way she had from my trust. Gradually, then all at once. She lost her job 2 weeks after the party. Official termination. HR cited a breach of the company's code of conduct and misuse of personal time during work trips. It didn't help that she tried to claim the footage was fake, until IT confirmed the timestamps lined up with her logged hours. She tried to start fresh, according to Megan. Moved in with a friend. Tried applying to a few smaller firms. But in the age of social media, scandals don't stay buried. The video wasn't on public platforms, but screenshots floated around. Texts, quotes. The line that stuck was the one she whispered in the clip. "My husband will never know." Except he did. Everyone did. The damage wasn't just professional. It was personal. Her circle shrank. People she considered friends kept their distance. Not because they picked sides, but because they didn't trust her anymore. As for me, I wasn't bitter. I was clear. Clear about what I deserved. Clear about how blind I'd been. And finally, clear of her. Revenge wasn't about destruction. It was about truth. And in the end, truth left nothing standing on her side of the fence. Some people think closure is about forgiveness. I don't. Closure is about finality. About knowing you've done everything you needed to do, and walking away without anything left in your hands. No guilt, no questions, no pieces of someone else's mess clinging to you. 3 weeks after the divorce papers were signed, I moved out of the house we once shared. Not because I had to, I owned it outright, but because I didn't want to live in a space that had become a symbol of betrayal. I sold it fast. Below market value even. The money wasn't the point. Freedom was. I rented a small place out of town. Clean. Quiet. Far from where anyone knew our names. That's what healing required, distance, both physical and emotional. Megan stopped by before I left. "You did it," she said. I nodded. She handed me an envelope. "For the record," she added. Inside was a photo, Jess as a teenager, laughing, carefree. Megan's way of saying, she wasn't always like this. Maybe she wasn't. Maybe once, Jess believed in loyalty, in honesty, but somewhere along the line she made a choice. And that choice had consequences. That's what this story really comes down to, choice. People like to think betrayal is spontaneous, a moment of weakness. But it's not. It's a pattern. A repeated decision to prioritize desire over integrity, secrecy over accountability. Jess didn't just have an affair. She constructed an entire parallel reality, built on lies, maintained by manipulation, protected by the assumption that I wouldn't notice. But I did. And instead of reacting with fury or violence, I responded with structure, with control. Because the best revenge isn't explosive, it's surgical. You don't scream. You don't beg. You let the facts speak, and you let the fallout do the talking. And here's the truth. I wasn't interested in punishing her. I was interested in making sure she could never use me again. That the person who disrespected me so thoroughly wouldn't get to rewrite the narrative as some kind of mutual drifting apart. Because we didn't drift. She jumped. A few months later, I got word through a mutual acquaintance that Jess had left the state. Word was she was trying to start over in another city, low profile. I didn't care. I had no interest in watching the aftermath. She was no longer part of my story. That chapter was closed, signed, and sealed. What I do know is that she'll think twice next time. Not just about cheating, but about underestimating the person on the other side of the lie. She thought I'd fold. Thought I'd rage and move out. Maybe cry and blame myself. She didn't expect someone who would gather evidence, analyze weak points, and dismantle her facade brick by brick. She never saw that version of me. But I always knew who I was. This experience didn't break me. It sharpened me. It reminded me that silence is power when used wisely. That staying composed in chaos isn't weakness, it's control. And most of all, it reminded me that love, when it's not mutual, becomes a liability. Some say I went too far. Maybe I did. But I didn't lie. I didn't fabricate. I didn't manipulate. I used only the truth. And that was enough to level her world. So if you're wondering what the moral of this story is, it's simple. Never assume kindness equals blindness. Never mistake quiet for weakness. And if you betray someone who once loved you deeply, don't be surprised when that love turns into clarity, and that clarity becomes your undoing.